This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks show number 593 with guest Jay Franze, recorded on November 30th, 2023. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in beautiful Bellevue, Nebraska, although maybe some rain coming in over the weekend. We'll have to see. We could use it. Of course, we'll post the show. By the way, my daughter says that's the most dad thing you can ever say is, oh, good, it's going to rain. We need it. Right, Jay? Anyways, we post the show with some world-class show notes. Yeah, we all say it like that. With some world-class show notes out at the AverageGuy.tv. Speaking of that, big thanks to Sammy who joined me last week. I always get a lot of comments when Sammy joins the show. Episode. Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoy. I enjoy doing it. She enjoys doing it. We seem to be back on track with that Friday after Thanksgiving kind of annual. The year before, things had gotten a little hard with her, and she just didn't want to come on and talk about it. We had her on a little bit later, so we're back on track with that. But
she is a wealth of information.
Yeah, she's just fun to hang out with. That's the greatest thing about it.
She got me hooked on Taco Bell. Thanks a lot.
We did. As soon as the show was over, $5 boxes on my app, and we drove out and picked them up, and it was so good. Yeah, it was so good. Well, tonight you and I won't be doing that, but what we will do, we'll post some show notes. We'll have them available out there at the AverageGuy.tv. Big thanks to our Patreon subscribers as well. If you are supporting us, supporting me on Patreon, and I appreciate that. Thank you for doing that. If you're not and you want to, the AverageGuy.tv/Patreon have a $5 plan you can jump into. You can do it for 1 month or as many as you like. And appreciate you doing that. Super easy to do, super easy to start, super easy to stop. Whatever you want to do is great. And then I've also re-energized the affiliate link at Amazon. I'm kind of getting that going again. I figured Sarah took a contract job, and I'm going to have to do the big tax thing anyways. And I thought, well, if I'm doing that, I might as well do the affiliate stuff again.
Might as well jump in.
We're back in there. So from show notes going forward, I'm not going back very much. Show notes going forward, if it has a Amazon link in it, it's affiliate. And appreciate you guys clicking on those and making a few cents off of them as well. Jay, last time you were on Jay Franze, Franze and Friends, jayfranze.com. Did I get all that? Did I get all that right?
jayfranze.com. That's all you need.
It's in all one word, Jay Franze. No spaces, no underscores, no dashes, just Jay Franze, FRANZE.com.
There you go.
Yeah. Head out there. You can get all Jay's stuff and his podcast as well. Last time you were on here, you were talking about ChatGPT. You and I talked a bunch about ChatGPT.
Oh, yeah.
Have you used it much since we talked about it, or is it kind of sat for you?
I use it every day.
Really?
Every day.
So what's the best for you? Like, what are you using it mostly for at this point?
I use it to jazz up my rough scribbles and bullet points. For the longest time, like at work, if I have to write a quick report or if I have to do something like that, I try not to use it for too much of the creativity on its part. What I try to do is, like, for example, we just threw a conference and I had to write an after action report and I had to put a couple paragraphs together. So what I did is I bullet pointed my paragraphs, the stuff I wanted to include in it, and I gave it a rough little outline of how I wanted to say it. And then I take that and I put it in ChatGPT and I say, just jazz it up. Mm-hmm. And it comes back with a paragraph of all my bullet points put into a paragraph form. And then I take that and I run it through Grammarly and tweak it out just a little bit more. And then it's great. And then I just send it off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Adding content, doing something. Yeah, you got to be careful. It does some weird, I'll talk about that here in a second. But do you think... Do you think it saves you time, adds quality, both, neither? I mean, okay, if it didn't add quality, you wouldn't be using it, obviously.
I think it does both.
Save times? No? Okay.
Yeah, saves time and quality. Because if I had to do it myself, I think this quality level would be the same. It would just take more of my time to put it into that quality. So for me to just be able to take bullet points and Like, for example, today from that event that I threw, they wanted a photograph and a paragraph so they could throw that in the newsletter. So I sent them a few photos to choose from, and I did a real quick outline of the paragraph of what I wanted to say. I just typed something up real quick, threw it in ChatGPT. It went ahead and just dressed it up a little bit. So flew it over to Grammarly, and it picked up a couple things. I tweaked that and sent it off, and everybody was thrilled.
Yeah.
It took 10 minutes.
Yeah, and there's some complaints about what it writes. I'm going to show you here in a second. I've been writing some articles over at the average-guy.tv with it, and I had to do 3 power station or power generators or backup these battery generators that we've been talking about over the last couple months, off and on. Had to do 3 reviews, and then I actually took those 3 reviews and had to write a kind of a comprehensive guide for all 3, and a bunch of work in there. It wasn't just like a few sentences and I'll spit it out. There's some things I had to do, but it literally started every single one of those reviews with the same opening sentence, right? And you're like, in an ever increasing world of, and all 3 of them started that way. It was kind of crazy. Let me show you. What have you been, as I'm bringing this up, what have you been using? Like, which version of ChatGPT are you using?
I just use the free version.
Okay.
So I have not, had any need to increase that at this point.
OpenAI, I think that's openai.com/chat or something like that.
Yes.
It's ChatGPT 3.5. I use that from time to time too. You can now, in Bing Chat is actually not bad. So if you go to bing.com/chat, sign in, and it actually has DALL-E integration, so you can do pictures as well.
Nice.
With that. And then at work, we have access to ChatGPT 4 in a special enterprise account that's like our queries are not going into the engine for other people. We want to use some of our own data, and of course we don't want that data to be out there in the public in the AI. We want to hold that data back. So we have partnered with Microsoft and have kind of a gated version of that to use. What I'm showing you on screen right now, if you're on audio, I'm sorry, I'll try to describe it best I can. But if you head over to the average-guy.tv, you can, and as of right now, you can kind of see it. The first article, Harnessing the Power of the Sun, a comprehensive guide to solar generators, was actually a work I went through, and this probably took me a couple hours to work all the way through. I got an outline for it, so we talked a little bit about what is clean energy and portable power on the go, the ease of solar power, some environmental friendly stuff. Although there's some dark sides to solar. I know some of you are like, "It's Jim, it's not all," But again, I'm trying the exercise of writing here with some of this, and then we cover kind of the three solar generators that I'm interested: Blue Yeti, Jackery, and EcoPro. I actually wrote the reviews, so this is kind of an in-depth, long article, and I linked to all of those reviews in this article. I wrote this one last, and I did the reviews first. So this is where I found it very, very helpful. I don't own this Jackery Explorer 2000, but it pulls from reviews and other things and gives some stats. And so it's kind of, again, here's the ever-evolving landscape. I kind of changed the words around a little bit to have it make sense, right? But went in there, and what it does a nice job. I'm showing a table right now, and I don't know if you've done this yet, but it's really good at compare and contrast, or say,
very much so.
Go out there and take these 3 things and compare them to each other, right? And pulls up. But also, I asked it to do some pros and cons of each one of them, and it goes out there and does a pretty nice job of pulling some of those items back. So it gives you, it's a good chance to, for me, I didn't own this Jackery, so I wrote it, or I kind of wrote it more, not as a review, but kind of as a guide. And then I do own the Blue Yeti. And so I wrote that one more from a personal standpoint. So I brought in, there's some things I brought in and I wrote in, this is how I'm using this. This is kind of the power that I'm bringing into it. So kind of wrote it more as a review. Again, you got this table associated with it and some links in there. So it kind of speeds up for me. It kind of sped up the creation and development of it. And you can kind of see the picture here. The DALL-E pictures are kind of interesting, to say the least. They're kind of fun. But I wrote the desktop dilemma. Are the days of the desktop over? Right from that, and went through. And this is kind of one I wrote some of it, and I let the AI write some of it.
Did you put an opinion in it?
I do. Yeah, towards the end here. Not as I kind of wanted to leave it fairly open, so I get some comments. I won't. Nobody comments on blogs anymore, so that's not.
Which is sad, by the way.
That's not ever going to happen anymore. Well, there's too many other places to do it, right? There's,
it's sad in
Facebook,
the fact that
LinkedIn.
Yeah, you do a show like this, and you're doing stuff live, but nobody goes and reads the connection from the show to the blog.
Yeah, it just going to blogs anymore. It just isn't. It just doesn't seem to be a thing. You find them if you're searching for something, then you find it that way. I kind of, Jay, I'll be honest, I didn't really write them for listeners. I kind of wrote them to see the experiment on this is what gets picked up by the Google search engine on this, and what does it mean? I've been promoting some of them on Twitter, but I don't necessarily. They're kind of written for more of the public than they are this audience, so to speak. So I'm not disappointed. If you want to go out and read them, you're welcome to. TheAverageGuy.tv. You can find them out there if you want to do that. If you're listening to the show, and I appreciate you clicking on them. All those things help, but it was more of an experiment of. Just from a writing and marketing standpoint, can I write things and will they get picked up? Right? Will Google pick them up? So I'm having fun. I think as I'm thinking about, as I'm recording this on the 30th, scheduled for surgery on the 4th, I'm going to be out for a couple weeks recovering. This will give me some opportunities to do some of this just off and on. Right. While I'm kind of recovering. Although if I could write, I could probably work. So I'm not gonna, but I probably could. Right. From that standpoint. Yeah. So it's kind of been it's been a good experiment. I mean, I still continue. I think it's a pretty great tool, and we just still continue to find ways. The comparison features on that, especially on some of the versions, you can load your own stuff in. Look at this. Or in this case, I said, like I can say, write me 5 tweets based on this URL. And then I just put the URL and it scans it and then it writes tweets for me. Nice. Right. Or whatever. You could say, make them funny. They're mildly funny. AI is more like dad jokes.
Right. I notice when I do things like that, you get dad jokes. Or if you say, you make it clever or witty, or you can use any of those, and it comes back with just the most vanilla version of those things as possible.
Yeah.
Or where you put the description in ahead of time, you describe yourself and positions you hold and all that stuff. Yeah. One of the things is that I'm from Boston and I have a dry sense of humor, and it doesn't talk as if you're from Boston with a dry sense of humor. It references it.
Right.
It says, Jay Franze with, a Bostonian with a dry sense of humor things.
Yeah, right.
It's like, okay, well, that's not very helpful.
No. And it's not, I said, take my bio, because I've got my bio's out there, and it knows it. If I ask, do you know Jim Collison from Gallup? And I'll say, oh yeah, I know all these things about Jim. I said, write an adventure story that is kind of based on all that information. Basically take my bio and turn it into an adventure story. And it rewrote it just the same as it did. So it's not, it's not that creative, I guess is what I'm saying.
That's a complaint I have about AI so far is if it writes something and say it's 80% there, and I ask it, okay, this is great, but let's add this or let's tweak this. When it comes back with an entirely different version of what it wrote the first time. Yeah. It might be very similar, but the paragraphs are changed. It didn't just add the 1 or 2 things I asked it to. It completely rewrote.
Did you ask it to keep it? Did you say keep what you?
I didn't say that. No.
And that may be a prompt that would work. Yeah. Keep keep what you've written, but add this component to it?
There was one, I'm trying to remember the name of it. I'm going to unfortunately look at my phone to see if I can tell you. But I found an AI recently, Krea.ai, Krea.ai. And it takes your logo or whatever logo you submit, and you can tell it what you want it to create an image of, and it will incorporate your logo into the image. Like a very, like you wouldn't even notice. It's very subtle. You can make it very, very prominent, but it's very subtle. So you can say, I want somebody walking a dog through a park with trees in the background, and it'll make the trees and everything kind of, resemble your logo. So
nice.
It's
Okay.
It's nothing that you'd use, but it's fun to play with.
Well, the prompt engineering is the next phase of this, right? And they'll continue to work on the models and get those better. I think eventually we'll have our own, you'll have your own LLM, so to speak. So in Chat 3.5, you can load up, up to 5,000 characters or something like that of your own bio, right? Say, hey, this is me. But I think that'll actually get to a point, we're starting to see with two. Oh, nice. You had Apple? Jack Daniels with Apple?
I didn't have Apple first.
What'd you have? You had Apple first. Okay.
As you can see.
What'd you think?
Apple was okay. Jack Daniels version has got a bite to it. Yeah. So it's not as smooth as the Evan Williams was. And this is
Jack for
Daniels
honey. Okay. You have to tell me how you like it. So I think eventually, we're going to see PCs coming here in the next year or two that have an actual AI chip on it. Everybody's calling them different things, but it's kind of GPU optimized chips to help with some of some of that processing. And I think we're going to actually get to a point where you can have your own model, so to speak. You can build your own model. You probably build in the cloud, process that locally, and kind of really build a model for yourself, and then say, reference this model as you're writing that, or here's some examples of things I've written in the past, or here's my bio, make it better. Some of those kinds of things where I think we're coming down to it. If you don't live online, you could get your own. You can kind of create your own model. So yeah, this not meant to just slam, Jay. Just sip on it. There you go. Very, very well done. So I think that piece is coming, and we have some exciting times ahead with it.
I really like it to alter what I've written. I don't want it to create something 100% on its own, because I don't know where it's getting the information from. I don't know if anything's accurate, but if I'm feeding it the prompts, I feel very comfortable with the knowledge I'm feeding it, so I can read it real quick, skim it. That's another tool I use. I have the computer read it back to me. Yeah. And if the computer's reading it to me, I can truly focus on the content rather than trying to read. And so it reads it to me. I listen to it. I might tweak something based on the way it sounds. But it's fantastic. I really do like what it's doing to the content that I feed it. Yeah. But it's definitely in the prompts. It really is in the prompts. It is in the prompts. Prompt engineering is going to be a big deal. I do think, and then we're going to move on to a different topic, but I do think the translation services will be benefited. I don't see them doing this yet. They're still using translation algorithms that they've built over time. That's been a difficult. But I think if they do translations and then run a large language model in that language on top of it to say, clean this up, clean the sentence structure up, like have it make sense. I think that could quickly do that and improve our translations. I've been doing a bunch of translations lately with live programs, and it's getting a lot better, but it's still kind of, it could predict. AI could look at the whole context, knowing what we're talking about, and do a better job of predicting what's actually being said, and then provide that in near real time, so that you're just getting a better translation. And listen, it's a miracle we can do what we do, Jay. It's a miracle. I am not complaining. No, I am not at all. I mean, not complaining. if we want to complain, we do. I can throw one quick complaint out there.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
If we're talking about AI when it comes to audio, like our shows or the content that we're putting out there, when we create an audio file, it's pure. It's a WAV file. It's a lossless piece of audio that we're eventually going to turn into a compressed, an MP3 style piece of audio. But if there's, say, background noise or flaws in the audio where we use what they're calling AI audio touch-up type tools, like the one that Adobe offers and so forth, the complaint I have is they're not truly just altering like a piece of audio equipment with like an equalizer or a compressor. It's not altering your file, it's recreating your file. So if you are, say, the host of this show and you run the file through this Adobe or any of the other AI systems at this point, what's happening is it's going to model your voice and repeat it back in, from their computer generated version, which if it's one or two words, works like a champ. Nobody's ever going to notice it. But if it's the whole show, you're going to notice it, and it's not going to be you anymore. It's not going to have the inflections, or it's going to miss that real
inflection
piece
is key,
to it.
right? Yeah, inflection is key. But it's still a miracle it can do the voice stuff that it does.
Impressive as can be.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even have thought of it.
I think we're predictable enough in our speaking that with enough of a sample, we probably inflect 90, I'm making this number up, 90% of the time the same way when we do words, right? And I think now it depends on what the sentence we're saying and when we're saying it and how we're saying it. I might say the word, I say that as well all the time. And I might say that 3 or 4 different ways. But knowing what came before it would be a really good clue to how the AI should inflect it.
How it's going to generate it.
Yeah. And I think that gets us almost all the way there. Once they get that with inflection, you're going to have...
And that's great for that one sentence, say.
Yeah.
And even when you're doing an hour-long show and you take that hour-long piece and run it through, it has an hour's worth of material to model after. So it definitely does a good job. To show you an example, I had a guest on my show who was recording from a hotel and had very, very poor audio. So I ran it through one of the AI models, and it came back. And at first I was like, wow, that's awesome. It's incredible. I can't believe it. It fixed it. And the background noise is gone. The hollowness of the hotel room is gone. The noise floor is gone. And it just sounded great. And I posted it. So I thought, this is fantastic. And then I listened to it in the car, and I was like, wait a minute. That's regenerated. It's not the original vocal anymore. So that disappointed me, and I ended up having to go back and put the original back in and use my own audio software to fix it. So it was a little disappointing in that, but I could see how it could be very handy for a word or a sentence. Like when we're doing these over the internet, you might have a quick glitch.
Yeah.
You can regenerate that one line where the glitch was. So there's use cases for it.
Oh no, for sure. And I'd say we're at some point. This is a perfect example of having your own local sample, so to speak, of being able to feed in a bunch of audio, and then train it, have it play some samples back. Nope, I like this. Do you want to say it like this or like that?
Hundreds of hours of shows.
Yeah, you could do some training. Oh, yeah, that for me, it's thousands at this point. I mean, there's so much audio out there. It could probably do a better job of speaking most nights than I do, just to be 100% honest. That's another phrase I say all the time, just to be 100% honest. It would have that one nailed.
Leads me to believe you're lying to me, Joe.
All the time. Exactly. Brian in the chat says, I like how AI can be used to explain a complicated topic to a younger, in quotes, age group, right? For example, how do you explain this to a 10-year-old? Right. Yeah. Or take any subject and then say it like I'm teaching a 10-year-old, and it'll attempt to bring that, to kind of bring it down.
That's a good point. I mean, I told you, I think the last time when we had the AI discussion, that my wife is just finishing up her master's, And people are starting to use ChatGPT quite a bit. And matter of fact, they're not flagging their papers and stuff for using it. They're actually providing models for you to use.
Yeah.
So, which is pretty impressive that the school's taken that view on it. But my wife refuses to use it for those things. And I'm like, well, if the school's providing you the tool, make use of it. But what she has found a use for is she'll take these long academic articles that, she's got to read 10 a week. And she puts them into ChatGPT and says, summarize this for me.
Yes.
And it comes back with a quick summary, and she's able to read it. And now she knows what the gist of that was, and she can go ahead and write her paper or whatever she needs to do for the week.
Yeah. There's a service called Swell.ai that is for podcasting. And I get like a free show every month. So one of the shows every month I load it in there just to see, because I just want to see what they're doing. And sometimes it's good. I found in some cases though, so I feed in a whole hour, especially on this show. So I'll feed this show in. Well, it tries to summarize. I always talk about the weather. So it tries to bring that into the title. Well, it doesn't have any idea. That's not a part of the show. I would never title that right now. I guess I could tell it that. I don't know how I would, but maybe I guess
Please
I could go in there and say, summarize this, except the weather. Don't do the weather. Or if I'm giving your bio or we're talking about you and some of the things you're doing, it'll try to make that a part of the show. And then like some of the quotes and stuff it pulls out of there, it doesn't have any context of like multi-topic, because we cover a multitude of topics while we're doing this show oftentimes. It doesn't handle the multi-topic stuff very well, at least on Swell. So whatever they're using, however they've tuned, because that's really just a prompt engineering service, right?
Right.
These are all just prompts that they've written. You drop it in and has a process to go through and do all the things and transcribe it and all that other good stuff. So Brian says summarization is good. It's good at it. Swell was really good at the transcriptions for the longest time. Summary's not so good. So maybe there's some areas listen, these are early days. I mean, this stuff is everybody's doing this right now. It's going to shake out for sure.
Well,
right?
Look how strong it is in its infancy.
Yeah.
I mean, when ChatGPT launched, everybody's just like, oh my God, this is incredible. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a fantastic service or tool. I mean, I love it. I can't say enough good things about it.
Well, easy to use. ChatGPT 3.5 is free still. You can get in there and it's fairly unlimited. It doesn't have anything beyond what they give you in a prompt. But if you haven't checked it out, Bing. So head out to bing.com/chat and you can try it there. That one is Microsoft's doing a little bit different with that, where they're bringing back sources and they're like, hey, this is where we got this from, and some of those kinds of things.
Which is great.
Like I said, DALL-E 3.0, that's the image creator, is a part of that chat. So if you haven't tried that. And so far, I've been trying that for pictures, and so far, so good. It's been better than the Canva version, and now Canva's starting to charge for it. Listen, this stuff's expensive. Like for them on the back end, we are definitely running up the bill. Right? I mean, we are running.
I cannot take another subscription.
Yeah, there's a lot, isn't there? There's a lot. Well, it's a lot of great ways to use it for free. So if you have not, and I think most listeners here have tried it, messed with it, probably have gotten an opinion, are using it or not based on their comfort level, and that's fine. Whatever. But I thought I'd catch up with you on that one. Hey, we were thinking about topics tonight. We'll spend the remainder of the time thinking about this next half of the show, so to speak. And I have never done a show like this before, but when I ran it by you, you were like, "Oh yeah," and it was kind of like the idea was failed gadgets for 2023. Like, what did you do? And we're going to expand that a little beyond just gadgets, so to speak. And I'll start with an example, but. What were those things? Because this is, everybody knows I have a problem. I mean, I have a problem with money, and for me, it's all I just get wrapped around the axle about spending it and about having enough of it and all those kinds of things. So in some of my tech decisions, every time we have Erin on, she's like, go buy this. And I'm like, okay. And then I don't, because that's what I do. I always say yes. And then I tighten up at the end. I'm like, no, I'm not going to buy that thing. I'm going to cheap out on that. So it really drives me crazy when I make bad decisions, right? And back at the beginning of the year, and actually this was a purchase I made at the beginning of, or the end of 2022, but I ended up picking up, the MetaQuest 2, Oculus VR MetaQuest 2 last year, and thought that would really be I was like, I don't know what I'm going to use this for, and it's not getting great reviews, but maybe it's early, like talking about with VR. I mean, with AI. Maybe it's early. Maybe it'll come out. For me, no, not at all. I regret every single second I own that thing. Just the other day, I put it on again, and I'm like, okay, maybe I could do some things in here. It's gone through a bunch of software updates, but the hand motion in the thing is improved, and there's been some other things, but I just haven't, it's just been a disappointment. And I should have just sold it for $100, given it away, gotten rid of it. They have a new one. They have a MetaQuest 3 that's coming out. That's actually more augmented reality. I think I haven't seen it, but it's coming out. But so there's kind of the example, Jay. I regret purchasing that headset. It's sitting up there. I've used it a dozen times maybe, and I keep thinking I need to give it more time, but I don't know if I really need to. I don't know. Jay, what have you picked up? Did you pick up anything this year that's been disappointing or didn't work out the way you thought it would?
Yes. I've got a few items to.
Oh, we'll go back and forth. You do one. I've got a couple more. We'll kind of go back and forth.
The biggest dollar amount one was I purchased the Zoom H8, which is their portable recorder, the handheld. That's what the H stands for. Their handheld recorder. The 8 stands for 8 inputs. So it's a great device. I mean, I absolutely love it, but it is the most awkward shape. It's in the shape of a figure 8, and it looks kind of like a spider, especially once you plug in 8 different microphones, or it just has cables coming out of it, and it's just not very, user friendly, or you can't walk around with it. It's just not comfortable. And so I just immediately returned it and got the Zoom H6, which same company, handheld, but 6 inputs. And it's so much more comfortable, and it's a rectangle instead of a figure 8 style. And it's, leaps and bounds, in my opinion, leaps and bounds better just because you can hold it. You can take it with you. Where the other one seemed like, even though it was a portable device, it really felt as if it was something that you had to just sit someplace with. Didn't feel very portable.
Oh, there you go. Well, at least you were smart enough to return it. I always get locked up on this. I have returned some stuff. But what do you use that for? What's the primary use case when you like doing interviews?
Yeah, mobile interviews. If I go to a trade show or something, I want to get a high quality recording. If I want to interview somebody, at a hotel room or anything, I could just bring a couple of microphones. It has 4 XLR inputs. It has a 1 stereo XY input. So, and it comes with a built-in microphone for the XY input. So it works like a champ. It's just like any other handheld recorder, but it's just more robust, and it's got meters on it. It's very similar to like a Zoom P4, but it's less podcast orientated. It's more. Okay. It's just a recorder. So if you wanted to, coming from the music world, I could take it to somebody's house, and I could put a guitar vocal, put a microphone on a singer and on a guitar, and record that. Mm-hmm. And it would be a very high quality. I mean, it would be a very good recording for something like that. But for me, I use it for interviewing people.
Yeah.
And another use I found for it too is with that XY microphone built in, I could take it to a conference room and just put it on the table, and it will record the conference. And
it's got a good presence microphone. Yeah. Funny, the 8, which I'm sure was more expensive than the 6.
Yeah, it was a little more expensive. It had 2 more inputs, and it was my favorite number, Jim. But no, 8, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, 8. No, right on. Yeah, there's a good example. We're getting some from the chat room. So John Biggs says, Not happy with the Netgate SF2100 PF Sense device. This is like a router you would put in your house, right? I bought it in February and I've never really been happy with it. Yeah, John, that's one of those things. Like, it's February now, it's
too late to return.
It's too late, right? One of those kinds of things. And you're like, do I sell this thing? Do I whatever? We know Tony, he's been talking about this all year. He's had some Samsung problems with his phone, with some phones and support and such. So if you follow Tony on Twitter, AW Rayner, you'll see all those. He puts a lot of pictures out there. Tony, you're pretty prolific out there on Twitter for sure. Lots of great pictures. My second one, let's bring up, and maybe a surprise and kind of a little, I would consider this a gadget, but wouldn't think of it, is I got this Astro AI digital clamp meter multimeter. And I'm going to use it as a multimeter because my old multimeter is like 25 years old and it's still, it's still analog. In fact, the neighbor borrowed it and he was like, analog? How do you even read this thing? Right? I was like, well, I've had it for 20 years but I wanted to, back in the spring, I wanted to be able to use that clamp. I was doing some stuff out in the shed with power, and I kind of wanted to see what the shed was drawing with power and some of those kinds of things. And I thought, this will do it. Now, it was only $25, so it's not a huge loss. But, and like I said, I'm going to use the multimeter function in it. But the clamp, the clamp portion of it, I'm never going to use that. It looked cool. And I know some things about electricity, but it looked cool, and I'm like, oh yeah. And I used it one time, and I'm like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was. It was like, oh, nice cover, some batteries. The leads are nice on it. It seems right for using it as a multimeter. Will be great, but not necessarily, not what I was. So it's hanging up on my tool. On my tool wall here. I'm going to use it once every 3 years. I'll have to replace the batteries the next time I go to grab it, right? Because that's kind of the way it is. I don't know. Jay, what do you got next?
Can I share my screen real quick?
Yeah, totally. I'll bring you up here.
Share screen. Ooh, I get tabs. Let's do an entire screen. All right. Before I show you this, let me just real quick. I know it's an audio show, but there's the visual of the Zoom H6 for those who've never seen one. Yeah. So it fits in the palm of your hand. It's very easy to carry. And then there's the Zoom H8, so you can.
God, that does look like a beast. It looks ridiculous.
It looks like a spider, doesn't it? I mean, and you can see the clips for the cabling there. I mean, the XLR cables with that button to push to release it. It's just massive. It's to me, this was just so much easier.
Yeah.
But the one I wanted to talk about, and this is, I'm sorry to do this to people, but this here is a sound machine, and we have a newborn, a year and a half at this point. But the baby sleeps with the sound machines primarily so that they don't hear the sound of the rest of the house. And this sound machine here, we have purchased twice now. Because it works, it does a great job, but the buttons on it are flimsy. So when you press it to turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, eventually they're just little circular plastic buttons, and eventually they just break and they fall into the machine. So I've gone ahead and had to replace it twice now, and I've moved on to a new brand. And if I could show it to you, that's the new brand that we moved on to. This one is working like a champ. So
Lectro Fan. This is the thing on Amazon, is these just weird company names you've never heard of before. This is Yoga Sleep. What does that say? Yoga Sleep Hush. Portable white noise machine. Yeah, and then that's the one that you didn't like. And then
I loved it. It worked, but the buttons just keep falling into the machine itself. So whatever is holding those buttons together, it might just be glue or whatever. But at one point, I couldn't shut it off. The buttons went in, it turned on, and we couldn't get it off. I had to just unplug it and it's battery powered as well. So I had to wait for the battery to go out on it.
Yeah. What was the other one? What's the name on the other one? Flip over to the Lectro Fan.
Yeah.
Lectro Fan. Yeah, just Amazon gets some weird. I'm sure they're Chinese, right? Products that are coming in. We talked with Aaron was on last week. We talked a lot about Temu and getting it kind of feels that way, and you just kind of like
cheap products.
Yeah, I went to buy a drill bit the other day, and I guess I never have really. Let me pull this thing up. We'll go into orders. First of all, crazy that I bought a drill bit on Amazon. Like that for the longest time, that would have just been a hardware store, right? You would have gone to Menards or Home Depot or one of those places. Here it is.
Right.
Let me bring this up. So it felt a little weird buying. I guess I don't know why it seems weird. I would have bought a DeWalt drill on this, but I was looking for a good size. I was looking for a 1 inch. This is 3/4 of an inch. But I needed an auger bit that was long. I've been going through some wood that I need some distance on it. And Samada, like who's Samada? Where did that come from, and why is this? And then if you go through if you go down into they act like they've been around forever, and maybe they're selling to Menards, and Menards rebrands it as something else. That's very, very possible, right? As you see this, but they've got these pictures like they've been doing this for 1,000 years, and they got all these different, you're like, where did these guys come from? I have never heard of them before. Yeah. No, pretty good drill. It squeaks a little bit when you get that far down into the wood, and you're creating a lot of friction at that point. But
you said it squeaks a little bit, and it just reminded me of another gadget. I'm bald, but I shave my head. But I use a pit bull palm shaver.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it just squeaks like nobody's business right now. And if I'm shaving my head right by my ear, it is so loud it hurts. So I don't know if that qualifies for a gadget that's gone wrong yet, but
you don't want to be. I
don't want to go deaf.
While it's almost like a palm sander, and you're pushing too hard on the.
But it does a great job, shaving my head. It's just loud.
It's just, I'm seeing this on Amazon. I'm seeing this proliferation of weird name brands that, you kind of go, like, in this case. So back at I purchased this in June for the Honda. So Sammy's, what's now Sammy's Honda, my 06 Civic, was having a lot of just engine trouble. It just wasn't running very smooth, and we weren't getting a lot of power out of it, and it was hesitating a lot. And I actually bought this Hitachi. It's $50 here. This Hitachi Mass Air flow sensor, pretty common, especially on Hondas. It was supposed to be an OEM replacement, right? So I bought this. We had nothing. And I was thinking, no, I paid good price for it. I think I could have bought it at, one of the local parts stores for just maybe $10 or $15 more. But I was like, I'm going to save a little bit of money here. And Jay, this thing just did not work. And for the longest time, I couldn't believe. I thought maybe something else is wrong with the car. So we went through a whole bunch of different things, right, to get this thing figured out. Phil, my oldest, who worked for Midas for a lot of years, said, Dad, it's that filter. It's that sensor. Can you just replace it? Can you just buy the one I told you to buy from O'Reilly or whatever? Right. So I bought them.
Was he right?
He was 100% right. Like, we put this in, and that car picked up and zoomed out like it was like it was. It took me 3 months to. I felt bad for Sammy because she was driving the car around while, no power and hesitating on her, and I put that thing in and it worked. So massive failure. This is one of those.
Did you apologize to your son?
I apologize to everybody. I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm such an idiot. This is where the cheapness, right, gets in my way. Where, I'm spending $5 to save a nickel on this thing. By the time all the stuff that we did, I had bought cleaner. I bought electronics cleaner because I thought, well, maybe it's that kind of thing. I changed all the filters in the thing. I even almost took it in for a full tune-up. I was just like, well, maybe it's going to need,
all the services would be much
and
more
it was
than the cost.
$75 sensor on the thing, right? And so that's one of those fails where you just got to be careful on some of this gadgetry, I think, that you're buying. Joe says he bought a pump up sprayer from Harbor Freight, another sketchy at time. Now they got some really good stuff, like they do, but not really tech, but it was the biggest piece of junk. The pump up cylinder shot out like a rocket, probably cleared 20 feet in the air. That's hilarious,
as long
Joe.
as you're not around it.
That's hilarious. Well, I mean, okay, but I bought an axe a hand axe at Harbor Freight to do some wood splitting with. It was $10. Everybody else wanted like $50. That thing was great. It worked. I mean, it was
okay.
You're just like,
I was expecting you to say it snapped in half.
I broke the handle at some point, but I was beating it with a sledgehammer, so it was my fault. The good news is, how much another one is? $10.
Right. So still less money than the other,
and it's still a lot less, and it becomes a new wedge for me. I can use it as a wedge. What else, Jay? What else do you got?
All right. You want to throw me back up on the screen real quick? I think this one's funny. Again, sorry for the baby theme, but we have a new baby. This is a baby monitor. It could be used for any sort of security camera, though, I found out, because we use it to watch the baby when the baby sleeps. We keep it on all night long on my wife's cell phone. We can hear if she's making any noise or anything like that. But I've also found out every time there's movement in the room, they email you a picture, which is kind of cool. Something moves in the room, right? Well, I'm getting all these pictures of my wife changing in front of the camera. So it has become a fantastic piece of equipment. So I'm sorry it's not a negative piece for me. This is actually a positive piece. Every time my wife is getting, changed, I'm getting pictures. So
are you telling her?
Oh, come on, Jim.
She's changing in the baby's room?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. She doesn't know, though. She doesn't know.
No, she knows. She gets she gets the pictures emailed to her. But
yeah.
But
yeah. Well, now she's probably messing with it, right?
Well, now she walks in, she turns it around before she gets changed. Now that she knows what's happening,
right?
But
and some of these have covers, right? They've got covers. They've got
I caught it the other day because she forgot, and the second she was doing it, because I checked in on the baby. Baby naps in the middle of the afternoon, and I don't want to walk in and make noise, so I was just trying to see if the baby was awake, and I turned it on, and the baby was just waking up, and my wife was getting changed, and boom, I took a screenshot, sent it to her. So yeah, I'm a little mean like that.
Oh, this is a TP Link Tapo pan and tilt security. Is that how
it works? Like a champ. I mean the pan tilt zoom part. I mean, it doesn't have a zoom, I don't think, but the rest of it works.
$20, $22 right now.
It works like a champ.
Wow.
I can't say anything bad about it other than it takes pictures if you're walking the room.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can shut that feature off, but it works. It's great.
This is the debate, right? There's a couple times I've put internal cameras up. I have one in the garage now, but I had for a while, I had a camera down here that sat right up here. And this is, down here is my area. We got the laundry down here and some storage. And I put it in, and Sarah's like, "Wait, are you watching me?" Huh? I was like, well, I kind of thought it'd be security. It would be for security, but 99.9% of the time, it's us, doing that thing. And like you said, it's either taking a picture, storing it, saving it, moving it somewhere, or whatever. Have you ever thought about that thing getting hacked? And
Well,
somebody,
that's what I told her. I said, these pictures are going up in the internet. And she's like,
Yeah.
well, no. She goes, I don't pay for the service for it to store it. I'm like, well, it's being stored somewhere in order to send it to you. So, but
yeah. Well, okay, but that's a lot like, copiers at work. No, hardly anybody uses them anymore. But there was a day, right? I mean, when everybody used the copy machine at work, and it was for a long time. It was a dirty little secret that all those copy machines had a hard drive in them.
right.
And I don't think many people knew that. And if you think about it, you're like, well, yeah, of course it would need some kind of memory to store so it could do some things. But everything you'd ever printed on that thing was stored in the hard drive, right?
That's
and
why I will never print anything personal at work.
Yeah. No, you shouldn't ever.
No.
You shouldn't ever. But although that being said, I'm not sure any technician, that's one of those. That's one of those kinds of things too, where you worry like, oh, the privacy, huh? And you're like, nobody ever checks those things. They don't. But they don't till they do, right? From that standpoint. But yeah, they got little hard drives in it. I shouldn't say little. Some of them are big, and they, you can go back and recall
storing video
things.
and stuff. I mean, it's got to be a fairly good size.
Oh yeah. Well, for $20,
dude, it works like a champ.
Yeah. I'll throw the link to that in the show notes too, if you want to go out and see that. But yeah, it's the question, back to the question of how, surveillance camera wise, I've got one in the driveway. I've got one on the porch. I've got one that covers the backyard, one that does the garage. But I'm I know, chat room, you guys tell me what you guys think as Jay and I are talking about this. We'll take a few comments here. What do you think about internal surveillance? Obviously, you're using this more as a baby monitor than a surveillance monitor,
right?
And you're kind of thinking it's fun to get the...
I think it's fun. I'm not sure my wife feels that way. But get a little surprise text in the middle of the afternoon. It's nice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure she's going to hate me, but sure.
That's all right. No, it's okay. Joe says it's all on the printers. It's all they can do just to keep them printing. That's why nobody's ever looking at the... Yeah. I was just kind of thinking about the printer thing. I went back into the office, going back into the office post-COVID, and we have some monster printers. Like just on the second floor in my area where my office used to be, there's 2 giant printers there. And I'm like, who's printing these things anymore? Like, are we really? And the printer reached the pinnacle of its technology. Like, I mean, you think about the average printer in 2019, it could do it could do anything, scan,
full
email,
color scanning.
Oh yeah, they're awesome. Yeah. I don't know. I think we're going to get to a point where they're going to start reducing the number of printers on floors. And then pretty soon, I think they're going to just go to a print room. In fact, if I was trying to save money right now, that's probably what I would do, is cut all the printers, go back to a print room and say, hey, there's a place in the building. If you need it, go down there. It's still free, but we're going to have a couple printers there in a central location, and you can just print. You can just print to them there.
Yeah, working for the state, the printer for the floor is actually in my office. So I know how often people are printing to it.
Yeah.
And it's not often.
Yeah. Listen, 5 years ago, those printers were humming.
Oh, yeah.
And I just, COVID broke all that, because the people who were printing could no longer do their processes, right? And they're not going to print it on their home printers. Right. We didn't send printers home. So it's like, figure out how to do it. So maybe that forced everybody to go digital, right?
Print it to a PDF
at that point. Yeah. No, for sure. Tony says, well, let's go back. We got some comments coming in, so appreciate this from you guys. Brian says, I'm okay with internal, that's cameras, as long as it's local storage, not third-party cloud-based. Right. Yeah. Well, you can't go with Ring ever at that point, right? You're never gonna. The Wise cams, I don't know if you can trust
Ring
any
do
of those.
Internal storage or internal cameras?
Yes,
I'm sure they do. But
Yeah, no, they do a lot of different internal cameras. Yeah,
I'd really like to get one for my front door, just for the simple fact that me being in the studio here, I have no windows, no nothing.
Yeah.
It'd be great
Yeah.
to be able to see who comes to the door.
when our door gets used right here on the Amazon, I've got this Echo Show 5.
Yep.
And it signs on to ring.com and shows me what's going on in real time. It's too long to get there. Like I got to turn around and wait, a second.
I have that here. Yeah, I have to wait so long for it to work. I have one on my desk as well, and
privilege.
I was hoping the world for it. But one good thing that I can do with it is, if I'm out, I can log into the camera and I can look in my office. So, I mean, it does have some security purpose to it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure everybody else can log in and look at my office too.
It's exactly. It's a trade-off too. I had live cameras going for a while. Uyghur had talked me into some of those services, Go Dog, or I forget what the name of it was. And you could watch them live, and that was kind of cool. Now it's Ring, so it takes a picture every 4 or 5 minutes at this point. And that's good enough looking out there. We've talked about that in the past. Tony says only covering the entryways. Joe says sometimes I put one inside when we're leaving on vacation. And that'd be a smart way to do it, right?
Yeah, very much so.
John says outside only for him. Then Joe says otherwise only outside. So if he's home, and that kind of makes sense, right? He says I do have one in my shop, but that's not a living space. Yeah, and Joe, I would consider your shop cam like my garage cam, right? We don't do much out. Yeah, well, and more. Just today, I was looking at the cam, and I'd left the garage door open. Now, it was during the day, and it's not such a big deal, but I was like, well, okay, it's cold.
It's a benefit.
I'm going to go out there and get that shut. I used to have that this is one of those where I used to have it automated where it would shut 30 minutes after I opened it regardless. And if that thing did not shut 5 minutes before I needed in the garage every single time. Now, I could have set it to 60 minutes or just to dark and some of those kinds of things. And I turned it off and I haven't missed it, just to be honest. It's one of those things. In fact, it broke the connection between the Amazon devices and the garage door broke. And Amazon let me know, hey, you need to renew this so we can, you just need to set this back up again so we can use it. And I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to set it back up.
The one that gets me every time, remote start for my car.
Yeah.
It lasts like 10 minutes or whatever it does. But I started in the morning before I take my daughter to school, and every time, it's like without fail, I get to the car, and the second I put my foot on the brake and get ready to push the button, the car goes off. It's like, I could wait another second or two to turn it on, but it happens every time.
I got an inch of snow the other day, and I went to log in to start the car just to kind of get it, defrosted. And the app wouldn't recognize. Let's see if I can get in still. The app wouldn't recognize. Yeah, I'm in. It wouldn't recognize. It was like they were down. And they were like, try again later. I'm like, I need it now.
Dude, you know what went down on me today that I've never seen happen before is Trello.
Oh.
I use Trello. I pay for the premium service, one of those subscriptions that I don't need. But I pay for the premium service, and I use it every day for not only my show and stuff, but I use it for work. And it went down today, and it kept me from being able to do my actual work.
I wonder who their back end is. I wonder if that's Amazon or...
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've got another one if you want to throw the
let's do one. Here. Let's do one more, and then we'll wrap it up. What do you got?
Can you toss it on the screen if you want the visual?
I blanked out. Sorry.
This is a bark house. Now, you buy these things, you put them somewhere in your house, and I have 2 dogs. They're very cute little dogs. One of them looks just like this one on the screen, which is a little Shih Tzu. Great dogs. They're extremely well behaved. But if anybody were to ever ring that doorbell or walk by my front door where the dogs can see it, they go berserk. So I bought this house hoping that it would keep the dogs quiet. Not even a flinch. Not even on full strength. My dogs just don't care. Wow. So And we've bought like 2 or 3 different versions. Nothing. So I don't know. And if you want to keep it up, I'll do a quick rapid fire for you. This trash can, great. Works like a champ.
Amazon Basics automatic hands-free stainless steel D-shaped trash can. For
you wipe your hand across the top of it. You don't even have to touch the thing. You just move your hand over and it opens up. You throw your trash in, which is great. The batteries, holy cow, it goes through batteries like nobody's business.
Oh.
I mean, I can't keep up with the batteries.
So you would give it functional-wise, good.
Fantastic.
Batteries, you got to come up with, just burns through them.
The thumbs up on the screen.
Oh, did it come up? Did it? Yeah, because there we go. Okay. Yeah. It does thumbs down too, by the way. You can, there we go.
That's thumbs down for battery. I got this monitor holder. It's what I have my dual monitors on in front of me right now. It works like
Vivo Premium, which is usually pretty good. Vivo makes them pretty good.
Well, it's not only good, but it's got the 2 clamps. I'll describe it. The 2 clamps at the bottom, so it clamps to your desk. But what I like about it is my desk has metal rods along the bottom for stability purposes. And this works around or on the metal clamp, so you don't have to worry about those. Okay. That's fantastic. And then I showed you the zooms. So that's all I have for tonight.
On the monitor stand, how oftentimes with this design, which is kind of the elbow design.
Yeah. It's kind of like
a vertical elbow, right?
It's like a mic arm.
Do they hold up pretty well? I've liked the pole design where then you have the arms that come off, and it's a little more stable when you're thinking side to side or up and down. How does this did this work out for it?
Yeah, that's a great point. My lights, I have 2 lights in front of me, and they're both on the poles, and it works. They're great. But the stand, and you can see in the picture, it shows that the stand itself lights up, but I don't use that feature. I don't plug it in. The benefit of the dual arms is that I can move the monitors out of the way when I'm mixing audio. I don't want the monitors in between to interfere with the audio from the audio monitors. That's a really great feature. However, you really have to finesse the tension of these monitor arms.
Yes. Yeah.
Otherwise, they start dropping on you or things like that.
They get droopy. Yeah.
And I found that I've put them in one position, which the monitors themselves come down, and the arm rests on the bottom, or the monitor rests on the bottom of the arm, so it's never going to drop. And because of that, I don't really move them. But in between the monitors, because I used to keep my camera on top of the monitor, I can't do that anymore because the camera's in front of me and the 2 monitors are on each side. So what I've done is I've got a pole now, one of those pole camera holders, and it's just right in the center. And it clamps perfectly to the base of the monitors. So it works. It's it's not the best because you can see if I look over here at you, I'm no longer looking at the camera.
Right.
So I have to look at the camera this way. So it's kind of pluses and minuses, but pluses and minuses.
Right on. You know what I found holds monitors really, really well? Other monitors.
Well,
so you just
unlike you, I don't have 9 monitors in my room.
Let's see. How many do I have? 1, 2, 3.
I said 9 last time.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 now if you count the laptop when it's up there. So I'm up to 11 and 12 if you count
counting laptops. I've got 2 of those. One for my real job and one for my podcast job.
Right.
I've got the 2 in front of me, so that's 4.
Yeah.
I'm assuming we don't count the Amazon device.
I didn't count it, no.
Yeah.
I did count a tablet, though. I have a tablet mounted that's running that it has a full-time display up to the battery, that I'm running power through because I just think it looks cool.
Well, I have the dual monitor for my desktop.
Right.
I have my personal laptop, and then my work laptop has dual monitors for a docking station. So,
yeah, you can never have enough. The best thing to hold a monitor in place, another monitor. Just saying.
And I have the screen, the flat screen on the wall that I can also use as a monitor.
No, right on. I'm proud of you. I've got this one monitor right above me to the right stays off most of the time because it's connected to a Fire device that I could just turn on and watch. That's kind of what I watch football and TV and stuff on.
And that's what I've been using the flat screen for.
Yes. No,
I changed it from, I used it as my second monitor for quite a while, but then I found myself having to look up every time I wanted to see what was on the screen. So now I just use it for YouTube.
Yeah.
All this stuff is great. I mean, it's fantastic. I love having all the monitors. I love having, all the places to put things, especially when you're doing live streams, to have so many different, screens and places to put stuff. I love that. But there is something to be said for simplicity. Sometimes it's just best to have my laptop.
Not when it comes to monitors. There's never anything to say about simplicity. People say that all the time, and I'm like, no, that's not true. It's not true.
This is coming from the man who says he doesn't want to part with a nickel. He's got 12 monitors. But I have the Mac Mini here.
Some of them are old.
Well, yeah, I've got some that my work was ready to throw out. I'm like, are you kidding me? Don't throw those away. I'll take those.
Yep, that's where I got some of them too.
These two in front of me are two HB monitors. They're huge, and my work was ready to throw them away.
Yeah.
But I have the Mac Mini in front of me, which only has one HDMI output. So I've got one monitor on HDMI and one on USB.
Okay. Yep.
So, and it's USB through an HDMI adapter. So.
Oh yeah, adapters. Listen, you can do amazing things with adapters.
Well, luckily it's working.
Brian, you'd said I think here. Let me see if I can bring this picture up. This isn't the most recent. Here, I'll share my screen as we do this. Window. Here we go. This is a little old.
Wow.
That what you're seeing there. I actually have another monitor. I've got more monitors now than what this is showing.
All right, keep that up for a second. I got a question.
Okay.
You got your curved monitor there, the main one, I'm assuming the one you're using right now.
Yep.
It looks like it's dual monitors. So is that set up in the monitor itself?
Well, it's just the way I set the screens. So on the Mac, I use it's just a split window on one side.
Automatic.
Or
do you place the windows?
I place the windows there. Yeah, I place the windows.
I heard one of them, and I don't know which one, has a feature where you can tell it to act like dual monitors. So I didn't wear that one, because mine looks just like what yours looks like there, but instead of being curved, it's two separate monitors.
Yeah.
But it looks just like that.
On the Mac Mini, there's a program called Rectangle that you can use, that you can go, hey, put this on the left half, right half, left center, top half, bottom half, top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right, first third, center third, last third, first two thirds.
Does it work well?
It does. Yeah. On the Mini, on Mac, it's really good. It's called Rectangle.
Okay,
I don't think it costs. I think it's free. I don't think I paid for it.
Well, I use Pro Tools a lot in both audio, in my audio mixing world, and then in the podcasting world, I use it to edit the podcast.
Okay.
But it has two main windows in it. It has your edit window and your mix window. And I keep them both open at all times, one on each monitor. For me to have one monitor like what you're using would probably work better for me if I could go ahead and split it and have the one window on each screen.
Yeah, the difference, though, we've talked about this before, when you get an ultra wide, you don't get true HD monitor size. And so lots of applications are kind of written for that, that 1080 screen or whatever, that width.
Right.
And so typically on an ultra wide, the width, not on all of them, but because some of them are built, but I think I have a 34-inch ultra wide. I don't get two full screens out of it. But for podcasting, it doesn't matter. Like I get the two that I get good enough, right?
Right.
And
so I've got two 32s.
Yeah. So in some cases, like for work, so the work setup here are, three 1080p monitors that have pretty good resolution to them, and then the laptop, right? And so that's
work as 4.
It does work as 4. Yeah, I have them in a square. So it's ridiculous. But you know what? I use every single
awesome
one.
if you can use all four like they're separate.
Yeah, they all four separate monitors,
All right.
laptop, and then 3. And so I keep like Teams up on the laptop. Email is in the one next to it, and then I'm doing the work on the 2 bottom ones.
Yeah,
and you can go in between the 2. It works out. It works out pretty well. The picture I showed is missing I have a 24-inch flat touchscreen, really good monitor, really, really good monitor. That's the one I watch TV on. So I got that one on an arm, and then you can't see in that picture the Surface that's running the home automation. That's off to the left. The Surface has the home automation screens on it that I can touch to turn things on and off. And then above it, I put a screen in portrait that sits.
Oh, really?
The portrait is just as wide as the Surface. So I have this big, long, viewing space here, and Unraid is generally on that, is running on that. It's just a sickness. It's just a sickness.
Well, working in the security world, we used to use these global command centers. Yeah. So for companies like Facebook and Google, we would go in there, and it would look like NASA. You'd have this giant wall in front of you with hundreds of flat screen TVs that each one of them had something separate on it. And you at the control center, you could bounce between whichever monitor, and you could do things. You could put the news up on one. A lot of times they would put, both Fox or CNN or the different types of news channels. And then you would have screens with the cameras from each one of your locations. And they would be global locations. So you'd have stuff in Singapore on one screen. And you could watch their parking lots, and it was amazing. But the control center itself, to bounce between those monitors, and like I said, it looked probably 20 monitors on the wall. It was extremely impressive.
Oh, I like it. Just as you're talking about it, I'm like, I could sleep there.
That drool right there.
Oh, yeah, hold on.
But see, I think that's great when you can use them all. What I don't like is like my laptop for work has a docking station with 2 monitors, but one of those monitors is just duplicating what's on the laptop screen. So to me, I just have dual monitors. It's really no big deal.
Yeah. No, right on. And at work, I just use one ultra wide, and so it laptop and an ultra wide, and that works for what I'm doing at work. But when I'm home, why not? I'm a visual guy. I like it visual, and
I like having everything laid out. And I'm a very organized person. I like it laid out specifically what I want on each screen and know where to look.
Yeah, well, I just don't want to have to bring anything up. I want it full. I keep the Ring up full time. I keep a Google Analytics screen up full time, so I can kind of see who's on the website. Like right now, I can see there's 2 people watching this program at theaverageguy.tv/live. And do I need to know that? No, but can I? Yes. Yeah, sure. By the way, that monitor I use for that is about 12 years old. Like they just don't go out. They don't monitors just don't stop working anymore, especially these, LCD flat screens. They just last forever. I have a hard time I have 2 monitors sitting on the shelf over there that I'm not using, that I don't have any more room down here.
Well, every weekend at work wants to throw one away, I'm taking it. But
right.
Like I try to get my wife to use them. I'm like, here, just use these. I know. And she's like, no, I don't need it.
I know. Well, it's listen, some folks have other vices. My vices, monitors. And maybe whiskey, but mostly monitors. Mostly monitors. Jay, anything else before we wrap it up?
Yeah, one more little item I want to show you here. This is a dB reader, a decibel reader. So it's just a handheld device, and it reads audio levels.
Does that say RadioShack on it?
That's what I wanted to tell you. You mentioned earlier that you have some stuff that's old, and I just reached down here at my desk. This is an old decibel reader, and it's from RadioShack, and it still works like a champ.
John has the same one on there.
Here. It's awesome. Right, so if you're talking right now, it's working.
It's not like decibels changed. They're
No.
the same as long as and they built some of those. I mean, in the old days, that was kind of before planned obsolescence, right? Where they would put crappy parts in it on purpose so that
no, this is
some of those are pretty good.
RadioShack. It's gonna be from like 1982. I mean, this is old.
Yeah, no, but it's still hanging around. Brian
Solid
says so many
level.
great memories at RadioShack.
RadioShack was awesome. I mean, if you're a tech guy, RadioShack was awesome. I mean, I used to go there and buy all sorts of stupid things. Like, you ever get those little suction cup microphones you put on the back of your analog phone?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dude, I used to do so many stupid things. I should probably shut up now.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right. John says the switch is bad on his. Have to push it away from the device for it to connect and turn on.
No, mine, it's still 100% functional.
That's awesome. Yeah, you held that up. I'm like, does that say RadioShack?
That's why I held it up backwards first. But, I mean, if you look even backwards, it's got the screw. You can put it on a mic stand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome.
Right. Or a tripod.
Yeah. This thing is built like a tank.
Yeah, no, right on. It'll probably last forever. Your kids will probably inherit it. They'll be like, listen, I have some old stuff.
RadioShack.
I have a black and white TV. For my dad. We'll wrap it with this.
Now you're getting a little out of control.
For my dad, when they moved to Montana, he had, and they might have had this before they moved up there. This may have been a California thing. So he wanted to watch TV outside, so he bought one of those. And to be fair, this is what they had in those days. Just a little black and white, the little black and white TV kind of thing. And it had an antenna on it, and it came with a radio.
Little rectangle thing.
Yeah, big long handle. Rectangle.
Yep.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I used to have one.
Gray. You could have any color you want as long as it's gray. and somehow I inherited that thing. It's sitting out in the garage, I haven't turned it on since I brought it home from the funeral, and you
can't get yourself to throw it away.
No, I can't. I still have an old TV we bought. Listen, I have 2 CRT things that I should have got rid of them when they were, because now I'm going to pay $100 to recycle that thing. Nobody wants to take those things anymore. I'm going to take it to Best Buy.
Take it all.
They're going to be like, I'll give you $100. Yeah, John says we should do a show. We could do a show about old tech we still have. Yeah, well, that's kind of what we're doing. We're doing right now.
Well, I used to go in the studio and we would record all these bands on these 2-inch reels of tape, and I haven't seen a tape machine in years, let alone a place to play the tapes.
Right.
I mean, and this stuff just sits in boxes. It's like, what are we going to do with it?
Well, it's not going to. Some of that's not going to last too long.
No.
Too much longer. It's going to go. It's going to go bad.
A whole story that could take up an hour about these tapes that we mastered from all these famous artists that we just had to get off the tape for the longest time. So it's crazy stuff.
No, right on. Well, Joe says in chat, he says that he has a new in the box 15-inch IBM CRT. That's awesome, Joe.
But is it black and white?
Yeah, well, it's CRT, so it's probably orange. Unless it's color. I've got an HP. I think it's 24. I think it's a 24-inch monitor, which was huge in the day. And that thing is heavy. Like I could kill somebody with that thing. I could drop it off the interstate and it would just crush somebody. I can't get rid of it. I can't. I should have given it away. I should have taken it in for recycle 1,000 years ago.
That's probably why all my monitor arms just do that. Because the monitors are so heavy.
Heavy monitors. Well, good stuff, Jay. Thanks for saying yes. This was a week I had a guest line up, and again they bailed on me, and so maybe I'm going to stop doing that where I fish outside of the pond and just stay. No, that's not true. I did try. I asked the community if it'd be all right if I interviewed somebody not live and played that into the show live. So I would start it solo, play the interview, be here while we do it. And some of them said, yeah, give it a try. So I've lined one of those up, I think December. middle of December or so, or maybe January. I can't remember which, but so one of those will be coming up. We'll give that a try and see how it goes. But
cool
Jay,
if you were
thanks for
part of the
saying
chat when that happened.
yeah, that's what I'm gonna stay here. So it'll be the same time. I'll start it solo, play it in. StreamYard has a great way of just playing it in, and then I'll be here at the end and we'll wrap it up. So we'll give that a try as well. Well, Jay, hang tight for me 1 second. We'll remind everyone to head out if you want to be a part of the Discord group. Super quiet group. You don't have to commit a ton of time to it, but a ton of fun. And if you have questions or you want to share deals, that's kind of what we do most of the time out there. Head out to theaverageguy.tv/Discord and join us there. If you want to leave me a message or a comment, I think I got 30 seconds. You can do that out there. Head out to homegadgetgeeks.com and you can leave a message there on that platform. And then don't forget web and media hosting powered by Maple Grove Partners. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust, and that's Christian. Head out to maplegrovepartners.com. He's coming on the show here in the next couple weeks, I think maybe January. And so we'll catch up with him a little bit then as well. If you want to send me an email with feedback or whatever, you can send that to jim@theaverageguy.tv. I've been doing a little more on Twitter lately, or X, or whatever we're calling that thing, but
Twix.
Not enough that I want you to talk to me though. There, we are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern. Not next week, but most Thursdays, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, on here at theaverageguy.tv/live. In 2 weeks, Uyghur is back, and I'll have a surgery update for you guys. So come out and join me live. We'll have some good times there. Jay, thanks again. For those who are out in the chat, thanks for coming out. Stay around for a little bit of a post show. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.